Delighted to say we're joined now by Colm Galvin. We got through the technical issues and we have you on the show. Colm, delighted to have you on. How are things with you? And I suppose Clare back on top after the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely great display from 1 to 15, even the subs that come on. Just an overall great performance.
Yeah. Did you get into the match? I presume you did get a chance to watch it with your brother playing and all.
Yeah. Sure did. Look, he did all right. I taught him everything he knows, so he's not too. No, look, he did well. He did work very hard. Same as all the forwards, they worked their socks off, and I think that's what really set them apart in the first half, anyway.
Yeah. So, what have you? I mean, obviously, this has been very frustrating for you. I'm sure that the fact that you've had to pull away and injuries have kind of taken their toll and that sort of stuff. And I suppose we'll ask you about that in a little while. But when you've watched on Clare develop in the last couple of years since Brian Lohan has taken over, what is it that he was trying to do that we're now seeing the fruits of?
I suppose just letting lads enjoy the game a small bit more, not putting restrictions on what way to play. As you can see, it's just fluent hurling. There's no real game plan to it. It's just get the ball to the good delivery zone and give the forwards the best chance they have to work and to use the ball as best they can and get good scores. But from yesterday, they were shooting from so far back. You would wonder where the game plan came. Just everything seemed to be going over the bar. So they just couldn't miss yesterday.
Yeah. How refreshing is that, Colm? From your point of view, even as a player, like just to be able to be allowed to play as you see it.
Oh, it's huge. It's great for the player's mindset going into the game that you don't have to be really worried about the game plan. Look, there just probably is one or two little things that they're trying to work on in the game, but as you saw yesterday, more so it's a brilliant flow of hurling, and they're playing as they see it, which is really refreshing, and it'd be great for any setup to have.
Michael.
Yeah, just on that, Colm, what's it like going in watching your brother play when you're not involved yourself? Are you giving him pep talks in the morning, or what's that like? And you're probably his harshest critic, I'd imagine, as well.
Yeah, I am. I'm his biggest supporter and hardest critic. So yeah, look, it's a bit weird, all right, watching it, because you play with him for so long, and I played with most of the lads for 10 years, 11 years, whatever it was. And to see it out there, it was hard enough the first day, but I'm starting to come to terms with it now. It's a bit more.
Yeah, just the form of the likes of Shane O'Donnell and Peter Duggan since they've come back in. Did you think that they'd hit the ground running quite the way they have?
Yeah, I did, to be honest, because those two lads are just unbelievably skillful, talented hurlers. Like Shane O'Donnell had, Jesus, that game he had yesterday was just insane. There's no one could get near him. He was bumping into lads twice his size and still putting the ball over the bar. As for Peter, he was holding one lad off in the second half with one arm and rising the ball and putting the bar over the bar at his ease. So look, they're talking about two phenomenal hurlers, and I suppose if they even took it 5 years off, I'd say if they came back in, I wouldn't have any worries about them anyway.
Yeah, and what do you think is the reason for Shane O'Donnell's such improved form? Like, obviously he had the concussion issues, but even long before that, we never saw, well, I suppose for a sustained period of time, we always saw sparks of it, but now we're seeing like a real consistency. What is it that's different now?
I just think that he's been allowed to move out the field a small bit more and get on the ball, and his interplay with the other players. He's able to read the game so well. He's just been allowed to have a free role, basically. It's very hard to tie down a fella like that, which he was for years, because he was always in the corner and the ball going into me to work so hard to get. And sometimes lads are hitting the ball from back in their own 45 and it's just up in the air and it's a 50-50. But now he seems to be getting a lot more joy coming out the field, getting onto breaks and making his own scores, which, for him, it's probably a new lease of life, to be honest, and you can see it in his play.
Yeah, could you believe the level of performance from Waterford in that game?
Yeah, I knew like this, it was a bit of a dead rubber for them, but whatever. But even for us, but the performance, they just couldn't handle it yesterday. Whatever, maybe I don't know, were they just not into it or whatever it was? It just didn't seem like they were themselves, to be honest. Even with Jamie Barron in the corner, like he's one of their leaders. You want him around the middle and doing what he does best, but they just didn't seem to bring it yesterday.
Yeah, and how much of a buy-in is there from the Clare supporters at the moment? And it's almost odd that Brian Lohan nearly had to fight to stay on as manager for this year.
Yeah, and you think about it now. If you went back and asked those people what to think now, it would be a whole different story. So, but look, it's the when you have a team, when everyone's buying into the same system, it just works a treat, you know, and you've everyone reading off the same hymn and stuff like that. So look, whatever he's doing inside in the trainings at the moment seems to be working. So I won't go too much into that.
Yeah, Michael.
Just on that, Colm, Brian's probably quiet enough figure in his media dealings and that. I presume he's a completely different figure behind closed doors. He absolutely oozes passion from what I can see during games and that. How inspiring, I suppose, is he behind closed doors?
Usually, I suppose, look, he doesn't. He's a man of very few words, but when you get the look, you get the look, and you know, just pull up their socks. But look, just even come back from his own playing days, he's a man of few words and very quick actions, and his passion is huge, as we all know. And I think the lads see that in him. He doesn't even have to say it really, or what he does. It's just the way he is. But what he says, lads just totally buy into it and listen to it, which is huge for a team, you know.
I know you said there's no restrictions put on players, maybe with the style of play, but it's probably underappreciated, I'd say, how well coached Clare are in that, and even some of the tactical moves, even putting Tony Kelly in corner forward in specific games, even putting Shane O'Donnell out wing forward. It's probably underappreciated, I'd say, how well coached and I suppose how well thought out things are with Clare at the moment. It is a bit off the cuff, but there's an awful lot of thought put into what they're doing.
Absolutely. Look, coming into where he came from into the first year, like, you know, you can't work magic straight away. Like, so it's going to take a couple of years, and you know, it's going to take a lot of training sessions to see where lads' best positions are. And like moving Shane out has really, in my opinion, sparked a new lease of life into Clare. With Dave Fitzgerald yesterday in the middle of the field, like these runs he's making toward up the goal is just unbelievable. You know, if Dave McInerney seems to be on fire at the moment as well. So look, you've Rory Hayes, probably the top defender in the country at the moment. Well, in my opinion, anyway, he's himself and Sean Finn. So look, it's taken a bit of time, but it seems the fruits seem to be coming out at this moment, you know.
Yeah, Colm, a couple of things. First, did you ever think Clare would be putting up 331 without Tony Kelly in the team? And just even to follow up on Davy Fitzgerald, 2-3 from play. There are times I see like his level of hurling, his athleticism, ability to carry the ball, and I think there's like shades of Austin Gleeson to some of the things that he does.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse, you know. He's the man 6'4" and he's probably 100 kgs. You know, if he's running at you at full speed, you don't really want to get in his way. So, look, Austin's playing great stuff as well. But when he's on that form, he's that bit of confidence. He's an unbelievable player. So look, to have that in the middle of the field it's a great asset to us anyway.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see this going? I mean, I'm sure you watched the game against Limerick as well. That was a draw. Maybe Limerick were down a player or two. They didn't have that much at stake in the game. That'll be the Munster final in a few weeks' time. Where do you think Clare are in terms of like closing the gap with Limerick?
It's very hard to know, to be honest, because like coming to Cusack Park is different than going to Thurles for Limerick. You know, it's a lot harder venue. I think that Limerick will be absolutely in unbelievable shape come Munster final. God only knows where they trained hard that week. You just don't know what's gone into it. As you said, there was a couple of boys not playing. They're going to make a massive difference. You know, Aaron Glenn and so he's really going to test the lads, and I would imagine Rory's probably going to pick him up. So that'll be a great duel to look forward to.
Did you always realise that Rory Hayes was going to become the player that he's very quickly establishing himself as?
Yeah, he always has that mentality of attack out in front, playing ball from the front when he comes in. But this last 2 years, he's just blossomed. I suppose he's just got used to the role. He's not that long in the panel. I think he's maybe there 4 years now, 5. So look, but as you can see, his performance yesterday, even and the day before, was just unbelievable. Scoring points from cornerback isn't seen too often, so he's a serious player, you know.
Yeah, Michael.
You just talked to me about the mood change around Clare, Colm. You know, this time last year, the minors were, you know, getting, you know, hockeyed by Cork, and maybe wasn't a great, the music, I'd say, around Clare wasn't great. Brian Lohan has definitely helped to turn things around an awful lot, but the whole county in general, there's so much more optimism around. Obviously, if the senior team is going well, that feeds into it a lot. But at every level, the optimism going around Clare is huge now, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it is. Look, as you said there, when the senior team is going well, it does help a lot for other teams looking up to say, look, geez, this is great, and probably enjoying their hurling a small bit more, which feeds into everybody. And the whole mood change is going to help everyone's mood change. Then after that, you know, you have the minors, you have the 20s, they're going well. So look, I know the lots of penalties and stuff like that, but look, the whole moods, they get to go to Cousy Park yesterday and see a performance like that, you know, the whole optimism in the county changes, everyone buys into it. I imagine everyone this morning is probably going around with a smile on their face in Clare, thinking, you know, great, this is huge. So I think that's the main factor, really.
Colm, can I ask you about the last couple of years of your own Clare inter-county career? Like, you're only gone 29, if I'm not mistaken, but injuries really took their toll, and obviously you had to make a decision on it not so long ago. How tough were those last couple of years being involved with the panel?
Look, I still love going to training and meeting the lads and having a bit of crack and stuff like that. And it's great to have that routine of, you know, going to the gym in the morning and going to work, whatever, and vice versa, going to training in the evening and then going to work next morning. But yeah, it was hard because you're training so hard, and you want your body to be right, you want to be fit, and then next thing your hamstring goes, and I had osseous pubis in my groin, so the basically 2 bones were rubbing, and I was in talks with his surgeon. He said it actually mightn't solve anything if he went to do surgery, so I decided to leave that off and see if I could do the rehab. And so I went to Santry 3 or 4 times, got a couple of programs, but it is so frustrating because you're trying your best to get back, and you want to do the training and be as fit as you can and be as good as you can, but then you're breaking down and you're missing a week or 2 here and you're just falling behind. So at that level, as I said in a couple of interviews already, if you're not 100%, you're wasting your time. If you're only operating at 80% to that level, it's just a no-go. So just called a decision on it then, to be honest, because my hamstring went twice in about 3 weeks, and I decided just had enough.
Yeah. Well, when exactly was it that you made the decision?
It was just end of January there.
Right. So you were in the middle of pre-season training. You were hoping to build up. And had you gone through a few weeks where you were starting to find a bit of physical form, and you were thinking, right, season is ahead of me, I'm ready to go?
Not really, because I came off the back of a club championship where I wasn't able to really train because I was getting too sore. So I was coming into Clare training not really as fit as I wanted to be, and then you're trying to make up for lost ground, and they get injured, and then trying to make up for lost ground. So it's just mentally it was draining, but physically I wanted to do it, you know, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Colm, I went back training about 3 weeks ago, and I popped my calf yesterday morning, and I have this thing going nearly when I go training now. It's like an anxiety of picking up an injury because it's just happened that often in the last couple of years. Were you like that? Is there almost like a fear going training of what would happen if you push yourself to a level that something will go or something like that? Because I've been that soldier.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone to trainings and I could just feel my body getting sore down, well, especially my groin, but my hamstring as well. I could just feel any bit of tightness. I would start to going, oh shit, it's going to go again. But so you always have that little bit of a fear, all right. Especially when you get a bit older. When I was younger, I didn't give a care in the world. I just didn't even do a warm up. So look, that now I find myself having to do a lot of stretching with bands and stuff even before I go training. So
will you be able to stay playing with Clonlara, Colm, to some extent, or what are you doing at the moment? Are you doing heavy rehab at the moment, or?
I'm doing what I'm trying to do is use going to the water a good bit, to be honest. Yeah, but I'm still playing with Clonlara, definitely. Now, like Donald, that's our manager, is very good. Like he'll like if I feel any bit of tightness come up, you just say go over and do your own little bit of thing and then come back. So which is great. and sure that'll give you a bit of longevity and hopefully you'll be there for a number of years anyway.
And did you have you played a match this year since you decided to retire with Clare? Have you played a few games? Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I only played a half. I was trying to build it back up. I played a half. A couple of weeks ago, I played against Clare last weekend, a full game, and that went well. So I am looking forward to now for the next couple of weeks and see how Clare goes with championship for ourselves and stuff like that.
Yeah, and when you talk about your own Clare career, what comes to mind? Is it the good days, the bad days? What's the first thing that strikes you?
It's mainly the good days, I suppose, but you'd always hear about the bad days too, as a fella said, it's very easy from clapping the back and the kicking there, so you have to take the two of them together. I suppose the main thing was the 21s, winning those group of lads, every time we see them, it's a bit of crack, and we won 5 Munsters in a row and three All-Irelands, between minor and 21. So that group is always going to be a bit of crack every time we meet up, even going into the match against Limerick, like meeting a couple of them. So they're probably the main things I remember anyway.
And what day would you say like you hit your absolute height? What game really went for you?
I would say probably against Cork in the 21s in 2014, I think. Probably one of my favourite days to look back on. Other than that, probably against the Galway 2018 above in Croke Park. It was the first match of the thing when I went back as a sweeper. That probably sticks out as well,
Do you feel that season the opportunity to win an All-Ireland just kind of slipped away from me a little bit? Did you think it was there?
Yeah, it probably was in the second half. The first half was a absolute washout. As for extra time, I did think we were going to get over the line, but I didn't know how well we'd fare out against Limerick if we did. Limerick were they seemed to be a walking animal at that stage. So, if we got over Galway, God only knows what would have happened, but it would have been a very hard game against Limerick anyway.
Yeah, Michael.
I know it's 9 years ago now, Colm, but what was it like, as a young fella? What were you, 20 years old at the time, winning an All-Ireland? What was, everything that comes with an All-Ireland? What's that like for a young fella in college at the time? I think you were in college in Galway at the time, weren't you? That must have been an unbelievable time, to say the least. I can't imagine at that age, you must feel like the world is your oyster.
Yeah, I was in college in Galway and I actually moved down to Mary then about a month later, transferred over there to there. But it was crazy because, you go from not anyone really don't know who you are to people like saying, oh, geez, that's Colm maybe or something like that even. And they're saying, well done. I was going down the hallway and people are talking. I was like, who are these people like? And, it was stuff like that. But it was mainly, trying to keep your head in the ground and being humble about it, but also getting back to work and trying to win another one, which was the ultimate goal, obviously. I enjoyed it. Everyone did. We were young. We didn't know really what we had done at the time, really, to be honest, because it's only now when you look back that you actually realise how big it was and how many people remember it and stuff like that. But at the time, we probably didn't. We didn't really care about it. But we did care about it. We didn't really show it, and we just wanted to go back out and field and play again. Can
I just talk to you about your relationship with Tony Kelly on the field? Almost telepathic, I would say, nearly between the two of you. Can you just talk to me about Tony as a player? I know everyone can say maybe how good he is or that, but what would be your memories of Tony as a player, playing with him, things that would set him apart maybe from others?
It's his hurling brain, I would say, to be honest, because he probably able to see things before other people can. He's able to read where the ball is going to go, which is probably one of the biggest assets you can have in the game. So he's going to have an extra yard or two on his defender or wherever he's playing. So it's that and his ability to do outrageous scores. Like, Jesus, some of the scores he's got in the last couple of years, you wouldn't get it in a video game. He's just an overall brilliant player, and he works his socks off. When he doesn't have the ball, he will work. Like, he's not a prima donna where he just wants the ball into his hand and put it over the bar. He will work get the ball off his man or whoever it is. He'll work back to field. So that's probably what sets him apart, you know.
Do you think he can drive Clare all the way this year?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. Yeah, he's a great leader. He's on the freeze, which is probably a big asset to him. You know, keeps him, even if he's having a bad day, he's still on the ball. People see that around him, and that probably helps him. You know, like you'd have Peter Duggan coming back and taking the freeze yesterday, but like Peter was on the freeze for years for us, but Tony seemed to step up to the role, and he seems to enjoying it, and he's the rest of his hurling's following suit. So it seems to be a good relationship there.
Yeah, and like, do you still see as Limerick as the number one team and Clare have a bit of ground to make up, or do you think like it is there now for Clare to just take that next step?
I don't think they've much to make up, to be honest, Joe. I think that it'll be a very, very close game in the Munster final. I see Galway as being a bit of a team to be watching out for, to be honest, Joe, and this will be building nicely. Henry seems to have a nice setup done there, so it'll be interesting. But between Limerick and Clare, I think that Clare have nothing to lose the next day. You know, I think it's that a lot of pressure is going to be on Limerick, so it'll make for a great match, hopefully.
Okay, Michael.
No,
I just thinking, was there anything, Colm? I would say, looking at you when you were playing, you were probably the most comfortable player I've ever seen on the ball. You just looked so comfortable. Is there anything in your training or in your coaching that you can remember that helped you be that, say, comfortable on the ball, and even the deliveries into the forward line? Always real sympathetic to the forward. Is there any piece of advice maybe that you'd give to young up and coming players? Just to, I suppose, not to be panicking on the ball or anything like that they could take with them in their own careers.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, I always tell children if I'm ever giving a bit of a coach or whatever that you actually have longer the ball you think most of the time. You always people seem to panic that they're going to get hooked or they're going to get blocked, but take that extra second to have a look up. Especially if you're a midfielder delivering the ball in, and to one of my biggest things that I always try to do was never try and give a 50-50 ball. Try and give a ball outside of fella that'll give him this maybe 70-30 chance to win the ball at least anyway. And that's probably my biggest thing that I can probably say, you know.
Okay. Well, Colm, look, absolutely brilliant to have you on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we'll be chatting again soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Mike.